Thank you very much for joining us today for today's episode. We have Lauren with us. Welcome, Lauren.
Hello.
Well, hi, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm okay. I think I'm, it's October 27th, 2020. So I think it's a little anxious, I would say, but
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
election and everything. And I think I live close to DC. I live like within walking distance to DC. So I think a lot of times when people are like freaked out about things, I'm like, oh yeah, that's like down the street from my house. So
What does within walking distance of DC mean exactly?
yeah, so I live in Brentwood, Maryland, which is so if like I didn't know this before I moved to DC, and which makes me feel like an idiot. But DC is surrounded by Virginia and Maryland,
Yeah.
the states of Virginia and Maryland, and one of the borders it shares is with Prince George's County, or two of the borders it shares. And so I live in Prince George's County, which is so I literally live like I can walk, it's blocks away from my house. So it's interesting because like I walk across the border and I'm like, I have representation in Congress, for example, in Maryland. But it is weird because I go into DC like every other day. If I'm, I went last night to pick something up. And so people have like, think that Maryland and DC are two different things. And they are two separate things, like border lines and government wise, but like community wise, they're very similar. But DC is just much more expensive, like housing stock wise.
Gotcha.
Hence why we moved out to Maryland, because it is much more affordable to live here and you get more bang for your buck, which is nice. I don't know if you're supposed to say that, more value for your dollar.
Okay.
I think bang for your buck might be inappropriate.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
I'll have to research that later.
There are a lot of phrases that we're all learning that are like kind of inappropriate and we shouldn't be saying.
Oh, I know. And I feel like being from the Midwest, like there's so many things that I say that people are like, I don't even know what that means. And I'm like, I thought everyone said this.
No.
Like, no, it's just a weird Midwestern phrase that
There's definitely things that I'll hear like when talking to people living here, and I'm just like, is this a Midwest thing that I just don't understand and have not had any access to? Because that's just what I'm going to assume.
Oh, I think you should. It's my sister, when she lived in Boston, they were talking about like going either like one way or another way, and the distances were the same. So my sister said, oh, it's a horse apiece, which is something we grew up saying. It means like a half dozen in one hand, six in the other, like it's equal. And everyone was like, we don't know what that means, we've never heard that before. And so she Googled it, and it was like a phrase specific to northeastern Wisconsin, specifically which is like the towns right where we're from. And Catherine was like, I can't believe, like I grew up thinking it was that like this was common, and it was like so uncommon. But now I got my friends to say that one, a horse apiece here. Especially my boyfriend, he'll be like, I don't know, it's a horse apiece.
I two things. I want to say something about states, and I want to say something about that. But I always like when you find something out that you think is normal in your family, and then you get out into the world, and then you realize like, oh
yeah,
no, people don't do that. Like that's just us being weirdos. But being from California, which is one of the largest states in these United States, it's so wild to me that someone can be like, oh yeah, like I drove 20 minutes and I got into a state. Like moving to Minnesota, someone was talking about like how they lived in Wisconsin or like went to Wisconsin for work. And I was just like, you drive like out, like I don't understand this. And then I realized like it's only a half an hour away,
Right. Well, and where I live, it's like we go, like Zuhair and my boyfriend's parents live in Virginia, and we go to Virginia all the time, and we're in Maryland, and we go to DC, and it's only like 2 hours to get to West Virginia, and like to get to Delaware. It's, it's very, since the East Coast is so different to like be able to access different places.
I remember, being in elementary school and you're learning about the geography and having to cram all like
the little
in these tiny little states.
No, that's so true. It's like something I was not used to either when I like moved here. I was like, oh, people can just like go, like when I got COVID tested 2 weeks ago because I didn't feel well. I didn't have COVID, but I got tested and they're like, have you gone out of state? And I was like, yeah. Like I went to Virginia, I went to DC. They're like, okay. And then they basically were like, those don't count. I was like, they shouldn't,
I went to I went to volunteer at the YWCA, and I volunteered at a couple different places, and the Y was the only place that asked me, you know, like basically how are your symptoms kind of thing, like
Right.
everywhere else was just like show up, great, thanks for having, or like great
Right.
for helping. And so they had asked like, did you go out of state? And I was like, well, like this weekend I went to my friend's cabin, but we were like socially distanced the whole time, but they went
Right.
to Wisconsin, and they were like, yep, sorry, you can't do it. And I was like, well, like, I mean, I get it, but also like,
Right. Like I didn't see anyone. I know. Well, I just think it's, you know, better to be cautious, but before I go into work like once or twice a week. I have to fill out a thing like saying I haven't traveled and I don't have any symptoms, and like I had to like prove that I didn't have COVID after I like didn't feel well. And so one of my coworkers he is the warehouse manager, so he goes into work every day. He has had to take like 5 COVID tests because anytime he had to go to Florida for a funeral, he had like a headache, he had to prove each time that he didn't have COVID. So he's like running around getting different COVID tests, and it's, yeah, I hope someday, well, of course I want a vaccine, but also like a way to rapidly test, I think is also important too, like reliably rapidly test, because I've heard that the rapid tests have not been super reliable. But I don't know. So
yeah,
or like if you get your test today and then you get told, you know, on, you know, Saturday, oh, you don't have COVID, you could still develop COVID because it has a 2-week incubation period, you know. So you could walk around being like, I'm negative, and it, you know.
yeah.
You're
I
not.
know it also like, I don't know, it's such, yeah, like it is such a wild thing. And so I haven't needed to be tested. You know, there have been times where I haven't felt well, and like
Right.
anytime that you get sick during this time, it is nerve-wracking, and it like
Right.
you are like extra heightened. And so I have canceled plans with people because I have been like, hey, here are my symptoms, like they are not COVID symptoms, but like this is what I'm feeling, you know. And I've offered like I can be in a mask and I can sit like 10 feet away and, you know, like do all these things, but still also like if you don't even feel comfortable with that kind of stuff, let me know and I won't hang out with you.
Right.
But yeah,
It's
like
great because I love canceling. I love like not doing social things. So I think it has given me permission to be like, sorry, I don't want to do this. Like I have canceled on a friend, like, and his girlfriend twice. Like they've spent like there's 2 times that they're supposed to come over and like have dinner in our backyard. I've just canceled twice. Like the first time I was tired, and then like the second time I had a headache, and I just was like, I don't even think I'm sick. I just don't have the like mental space right now to like be social. And I think that mental space is diminishing every day from COVID, like just like the pandemic, the realities of the pandemic is making
yeah,
it.
I mean, I think even leaving the house to do anything just takes a lot of mental preparation. Like
Yeah.
this past weekend, I did 2 things, like 2 social things, which is 200% more than I've been doing.
Right.
You know, like
Right.
if I do something outside, it's like 1 thing a weekend. But yeah,
Right.
this was, and on Sunday, so I did something Friday night, and then I did something Saturday night, and I was exhausted
Yeah.
on Sunday. And I was like, I'm just gonna sleep or just hang out and watch
Right.
like fall movies.
I did the same thing. We had actually I've become friends with this girl who was Coquito's foster mom, and I've become good friends with her just through Instagram. Actually, like I followed her on Instagram because she has like a foster account, and so she and I have become close. And so she and her boyfriend came over for dinner on Friday night, and we ended up talking till like 1 a.m. And I think it was just like the 4 of us had like not like talked to anyone besides each other, and so we're like new people, and then we're like new people to hear our stories that like Zuhair has heard a million times. And on Saturday I was just exhausted. I was like, I cannot do this. Like I like slept all day, and then I woke up and Zuhair and I made dinner for Zuhair's mom, but like, and then I like went immediately right back to sleep after she left. So like I slept like I was awake for like 3 hours, and it was
A friend of mine a couple weeks ago, she had her birthday, and her husband, they bought a projector because they wanted to do an outdoor movie. So
yeah.
we watched Cats. And
I
I will say,
I need to see it.
I will say this: I think we watched it the right way
Yeah.
because it was outdoors. It was with, you know,
a
like,
social experience. Yeah.
yes. And so we could heckle and we could be like, what is going on? And I don't understand this. And I think that was the right way to watch it. I think watching it by yourself and like in a much more serious setting would be less enjoyable because it truly feels like a fever dream.
So my mom's best friend had the VHS of the Broadway recording when I was a kid. So I don't know if you know this, but like they spent like weeks recording. They like did like a couple performances and they recorded it from all these different angles and then they like put it together and released it as a VHS. Mm-hmm. And like my mom's best friend had it and her daughter was obsessed with it and we would watch it all the time. And I remember as a kid being like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. But also like when you're a kid, you're like, maybe I haven't experienced a lot of things, so maybe this is just new. And then when everyone was like talking about the movie, I was like, what is like, yes, like have you guys like read the thing, like read the plot? It doesn't make any, they're like trying to sacrifice a cat and you know, the cats are trying to figure out who's gonna be sacrificed and they like want to be sacrificed. And then the cats are not cat looking, they look like humans. And like, and the cast is just like out of this world. Like Taylor Swift, Jason Derulo, like what does that even, like how did these people get cast? Like the casting director deserves an award.
Jason Derulo, like I saw some article where he was like, he truly thought that it was going to change the world. And I was like, you know what, Jason? Maybe it didn't happen the way that you thought it would, but I still think that it did change the world.
Yeah. I know. I need to see it. My friend Will, who lives in Minneapolis, I think he saw it in theaters 3 times. He like would text me like, going to see Cats again. Like, oh my god. It's funny. I did like a virtual conference last week, and you know when you go to a conference, you get like swag, like or like you know meals and branded things. And so we got like a branded blanket, which is actually really nice. We got it sent to us, except my dog Willis, he like immediately tried to tear it up. I like saved it from him. But we also got a gift card to Fandango, and I was like, I'm not going to a movie right now. Like they say like the worst thing you can do is sit inside for a long time in a poorly ventilated space. And I was like, I would assume most movie theaters are very poorly ventilated.
Right.
So I'm going to sit in a movie theater. So I'm like, I hope it doesn't expire because I would love to do this in 2 years.
when we feel safe to do that. Right. It's kind of wild. Like, you know, you see things now and you're looking with like a more critical eye, and we are really gross in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things that we should like not like that we did before that we should continue to not do, you know, during this, I think.
Right. Including, I think, like wearing masks if you feel sick, like they do in other countries, like in China and stuff. Like if as a courtesy to other people to not get other people sick. And I think that is so important. And
yeah. And I will say this because I have definitely seen people like wearing masks and, you know, kind of before all this and before like I educated myself on this, like I always just assumed that they were like, oh, they don't want us to breathe on them or whatever. Right. Like how rude. And like, no, it's the exact opposite.
Right.
Like, here I was in my egocentric, like thinking that this person was like being super rude and I was the rude one. Like I was the jerk. Like they're like, oh.
I was thinking the other day, like, I really don't understand. Like my cousin lives in Wisconsin and she's been talking a lot about how people are like really anti-mask and they refuse to wear masks. And even as far as they think COVID is a hoax. And I'm like, I wear a mask. So I have to wear a mask at work. Obviously I wear a mask when I go, to the grocery store or anywhere, you know, and in DC, you have to wear a mask if you're outside, even if you're just like on the street walking. Okay. Like legally you have to do that. You don't have to do that in Maryland. And also like my neighborhood is like not that populated. So like when we go for walks with our dog, we'll bring a mask with us. And if we like pass people, we'll put on a mask. But so as someone who has worn a mask a lot, I really don't get what the big deal is. Like, I don't get why people don't want to do it. Like it's just not, like for people who wear glasses, and I do wear glasses, that like, yes, it can be annoying, but if you just like situate it correctly in your face, you have it like pressed against your nose, you'll be okay. And you have to practice. Like I remember the first time I wore a mask, I was like, oh my God. And now it's like so second nature. Like what? Like I really don't understand that. I really don't, like of all the things.
It's
Like I was even thinking Minnesota, having a mask in the winter is gonna be great. Because
yeah.
you're gonna keep your face warm. Like how many times have you been like gone out and your nose is like freezing and you keep thinking about it? Like that's the best.
Yeah, it's very much like if the only convenience in my life is that I have to put a piece of fabric on my face, like
Yeah.
and it potentially can save like even one person's life,
Right.
amazing. Like I'll totally do that.
Yeah. And I just I don't get it. I really do not get it. And I like, I don't know. And maybe like I need to like be better at like being in other people's shoes, but like sometimes it's just like people are irrational. And that's
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking about this. So I recorded another one yesterday of these. And, you know, I something that I've been trying to work on during this time, because there's a lot of things that I myself am learning or just being exposed to the first time. And, you know, you just think of your education, like at some point in my life, there, like I didn't know this one thing, and I had people in my life that very kindly like corrected me, or you know, like, oh, this is not really the path you want to go on, like you should go this way. And so I need to give more kindness and more grace to people who are learning, like kind of for the first time about a lot of stuff. But yeah, like part of me is sort of just like I don't know who benefits from COVID being a hoax. And maybe this is like my own ignorant, like, you know, worldview. Like I truly don't know who benefits from COVID being a hoax. I do think like there are things that are being downplayed and things that are being upplayed. What they are, I don't totally know. But the reality is like if the thing that I have to do is wash my hands more frequently and wear a mask and like hand sanitize, like I'm cool with that, because we're also learning, like, remember when everyone was like, you need to wash your hands for 20 seconds? And everyone was like, what? And I was like, you people have not learned how to properly wash your hands. Like, what?
1 second. Coquito is, can you destroy this? I have like the bag with like all of my important documents, like my passport and my checkbook, and she is trying to destroy it. She's just looking at me like, I don't know what I did wrong.
How dare you?
I know. I think a lot about that, like with this summer, how people, you know, like the Black Square and their Instagrams and stuff like that. And I think a lot of white people like thought that they would just be able to like know everything all at once, and then like I think they thought they were trying to fill a cup up and then like the cup would remain filled. But like I don't think what they realize is like you fill your cup up a little and then like you realize that your cup is even bigger to learn. Like there's so much more to learn. And I think in change, and like I think for myself, like my opinions on police, like I remember when I lived in Minneapolis and I was like, yeah, I definitely think the police should be reformed, but like no, more police officers make sense because then police aren't like overworked, and police in the schools actually make sense because then they're making relationships. And then like, but like flash forward like the 3 years since I was working on that kind of policy, I'm like, no, I now I understand, right? But it didn't happen overnight. Like it didn't like now I'm like, yes, defund the police. Yes, I agree that SRO should not be in schools, and I'm gonna always defer to like Black people's opinions on things and views and lived experiences, and not just assume what's best for Black and Indigenous folks. And I really think like people, because the pandemic's so new, people like are actively feeling that often, like that their views are changing and like developing so quickly. And I think people aren't used to that, right? Like people are used to like having an opinion and sticking with it. And you have so much new information constantly coming in. I even think about masks, or like remember in the beginning when Fauci was like, don't wear a mask, save those for the medical folk, and like if you wear a mask you're gonna touch your face more. And now he's like on the cover of magazines like wearing a mask, you know. And so it's like, yeah, we learn more, and then we changed, we adapted, and that's okay. That's good. Like,
In the beginning, I was like, I'm not gonna buy a mask. I'm not gonna like worry about like I know what I can do to protect myself, but yeah, the healthcare
mhm.
workers need it. And the fact that we still have not given them adequate supplies to like to help with this thing, just like
Right.
it's really mind-boggling.
Well, and that these places like Gap and Old Navy, and I guess I know they're the same company, but other like Target have been able to like with a snap of fingers, like get the supply chains to make masks. And I'm like, you could have been doing this earlier. Like
Yeah.
you could have, like, and like you could have, like masks could have been accessible in mass quantities earlier. It's just when it became like through capitalism profitable for them, right?
Yeah.
And it's profitable now to have masks, like.
Yeah, I mean, like I was shopping somewhere and I needed to hit the minimum to get free shipping, and I was like $2 away, and I was like, well, I'm gonna buy this pack of 2 masks for $4 because and I
Mhm.
was like, this is really where we are right now. Like,
Right, I know. That's why I was just buying some new pants because, full disclosure, I've gained weight in COVID times, and I do not fit into my old pants, which is fine because I never really liked a lot of my old pants, and because I wear leggings to work a lot, so my leggings still fit, but like my actual pants, and I was like, yeah, I had to like hit a minimum. And then I realized like for some reason they like still gave me free shipping. And I was like, oh good. Cause I was gonna add a mask. And like I bought like 20 masks a couple like 2 months ago. And like Zuhair and I have like a basket at the front door and we like try to switch them out as often as possible. So we're not like reusing masks over and over. And I know that's a privilege to have like so many masks at hand. And but I was able to like purchase them and so
yeah, it is like the amount of times that I've been at like I want to say like people's houses, but like been in people's backyards or
yeah.
like, um, and so been hanging out with people in their backyards, and then somebody that they live with, whether it be their partner or a roommate, they'll be like, hey, do you know like where are the masks? And they're like, oh, they're in the dryer. Like
Yeah.
these
It's a whole new
conversations that
thing.
we're
Like a
having.
year ago, we would have been like, what is that? Like, I know. We
um,
have a basket for dirty masks and we have like a little bag that we wash them in. And
yeah.
life has transformed.
Yeah, so I guess that kind of like appropriately sums up one of my segments, which is called Wine About It. I think we've whined about a couple things, but I want to move into my next one, which is called Paths to Cheese, where I compliment the guest. And you've shown this in this conversation, but something that I really appreciate about you is you are you're committed to every conversation that you're having, and you're so in it, and you're so present, and you're so like positive, and you're like, yeah, let's talk about this, and you're not afraid to be wrong, you're not afraid to be like, oh, like I don't know about this, like let's talk about it. And like it very much is this like open, wonderful place where we can joke about something, but then we can also like very seriously talk about something very serious, but also sometimes like those lines kind of blur, but in a nice way. So thank you.
Well, that's very sweet. I think that like that what you just said about me is like something I probably people would not have said about me like even 3-5 years ago. And but like going back to that, like the more I learn, the more you learn, the less you know, kind of thing. And I think I really like I feel like it is my duty as like a white person, particularly a white woman, to like just kind of shut up, and to like learn. And I don't know, I think it's a lot. I'll never be perfect and I will probably piss people off along the way and people piss me off. But I think to you, Jackie, I am so pleased that we have stayed connected. I think there's a lot of people who I have not stayed as connected to in Minneapolis since I moved back out here to the East Coast. And I think that's been challenging because these were people that I knew much longer than and kind of going back. But it's funny, like the year I moved back to Minneapolis, I became friends with you and my friend Will, and you two are two of the people I talked to the most back in Minneapolis. And I think that goes to show that like friends are not like the length, but it's like the depth, and how you've always just shown so much like you're such a good observer, I think, of human behavior and like interpreter, and like you're not one to judge, you're one to like learn the facts. And I think that's great. And I've loved keeping in touch with you. And I really wanted to go to Minneapolis this summer and show Zuhair because he went once, but he's never like been to my Minneapolis. And I like it was really sad that I couldn't go. And I was like next summer, but maybe not even next summer. And I don't feel comfortable. Like someone messaged me, someone who you know, who I'll tell you offline, but messaged me about coming to visit for the inauguration, depending on the events of the, the outcome of the election. And I was like, yeah, you can come. I have room. But I also was like, I haven't left like the radius of like the DC area since March. And like the idea of traveling even in COVID time, like even though like you can get tested and you can be safe, I was like, oh, like maybe, I don't know. I was like, oh yeah, for me, I really like, I don't think I think you and I have a fear of being like, not being wrong, but being like, I think girls like always raised to be like, follow the rules and like, they don't want to offend anyone and that kind of thing. But like this time I'm like, no, I really think we should follow these rules, Yeah. So like we've canceled our trip we were going to go to Wisconsin for Christmas and we're not going to go anymore because it's just a hotbed there and I don't want to risk it for my family or for my family back here,
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's very nice to hear. I appreciate that. I was even really questioning starting this project during this time because I am white and I have many privileges that go along with that, and, I was like, is my voice one that needs to be heard or should be heard in this time? And, I think that I still wrestle with that, or I shouldn't say I think, because like I still wrestle with that question, and, maybe it's not necessarily my voice that needs to be heard, but I am doing a cognizant, I'm being very cognizant of the people that I'm reaching out to and talking to, and I'm trying to talk to people who both look different than me and also have different lifestyles, and kind of there are things that are different, because you don't learn anything if you just stay with the same people, whatever that looks like. But I've talked about this in the past where having these conversations with people, and yes, like at this time in my life, like they are people that are my friends, so obviously we get along in some way, but that may open up, and if people are interested, I'm definitely welcome and open to that. You can email me at passthewineandcheese@gmail.com. I think that's the first time we've given that email, but you can also reach out to me at social medias at passthecheese. But yeah, like so if anyone who's interested, I definitely love having these conversations. But the point of all this is, kind of when you get down to the basic facts, we all want the same thing. We all want to feel safe. We all want to be loved. We all just, I think the majority of people, like, we want good and good things. And, I think the definition kind of is on a scale for some people, so I don't want to speak to every single person, but I think a lot of us are very afraid and feel very alone. And in those times, it's very easy to lash out and react in more negative ways. And, I'm somebody who tries to push myself outside my comfort zone. And so I'm trying to do that right now.
Yeah. Well, and I think also like a lot of times like projects like this are done by people who are already in spaces where their voice is heard, like whether they're a journalist or, they're a specialty in their fields. But I think like besides maybe like true crime, because I feel like a lot of people just pick up and like, I'm gonna do a true crime podcast or something, because there's a lot of true crime podcasts, as you know, Jackie. But I think like just talking is something like is harder, right? Like talking about true crime and then talking about your life through the like guise of true crime, right? Like it feels a little less like vulnerable, but just talking is vulnerable. And I don't think we do it. We don't have conversations, and we don't like new people. We don't meet new people, especially as we're more adults. Like, the people you work with, like some friends from college and maybe some friends you've met along the way, but like, like people's circle becomes smaller and smaller. And
it really does. Yeah.
Well, except for my friend turned 30 recently, and we went to a park to like have a little celebration for him. And there was 8 of us, and we all like we were outside and we distanced from each other, but we went to this park that I'd never been to, and it was filled with people, like groups of people. And like, granted, like I didn't know all 8 of the people, right? Like I knew my friend who was celebrating his birthday, and I knew his old roommate. I didn't know like his roommate's fiance. I didn't know, and I knew his other friend, and I didn't know his like roommate's husband and my friend's new boy or girlfriend. And I was like, how do these people know each other? Like in the rest of the park, like how are these people in groups of like 10, 15? Who knows that many people?
Right.
Like what? Like my friend or my cousin is at a wedding in December and there's 700 people invited to the wedding, which one probably shouldn't be happening anyway.
Wait, you said 700?
700. But I also was like, how do you know 700 people? Like a girl I went to college with got married this summer and she had 10 bridesmaids. And I was like, 10 girls who would say yes to you? Like, that's not a thing in my life. I don't know. And so it's like very, like, you have to hold on to the people that you care about, but also like you said, like be open to new conversations, but like not everyone needs to be like a bridesmaid in your life.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
We could learn weird lessons along the way. Well, we're kind of about that time, so I definitely want to wrap it up. Is there anything that you want to bring awareness to, or anything you want to promote for yourself, or just kind of what's going on?
Great question. Well, I work at the Greater DC Diaper Bank, which is an organization that provides diapers and formula and other basic needs for adults and kids throughout the DC metro area. And we're doing some really cool work right now with, as COVID response, we've set up nearly 20 hubs for folks to go get diapers in a similar way that they would go pick up food through food distribution sites. And I think one thing would be if you're looking for places to give your time or money or talents to, like think beyond food. Food is so important and obviously people ever needs food, but food is something that is in a very big supply chain in our country, and diapers are very expensive, and families also need diapers. So think about the other things that you might be able to contribute.
I just want to really quick, I just have a very funny story. I'm going to make it quick. But when I was in Turkey, we did this, a couple different people came up with an idea of donating resources and things to the refugees of Syria that were there at that time. And this was about 6 years ago that I was there. And so we did one where like we collected like because everyone had bought clothing. And so I was like, well, anything that doesn't fit in your suitcase, like bring it over to my room and like we'll drop it off. And then another one, we all collected money and then we bought supplies with it and donated. And I bought some like formula and diaper supplies, and a lot of people think about like the younger kids, but there are also like some older kids. So like just keep that in mind, And so I was buying something that was for someone that was slightly over. I was buying formula. Anyway, not important. And the person at the register didn't really speak English, and I did not really speak Turkish. But he like pointed at the like what I was buying, and then pointed at me, and was very much like, you have somebody old enough to need this? And I was like, no, like that's not for me, because I have been carded at rated R movies when I was 26. So
yes, that's funny. And I think that's an important point, that like diaper need and just like needs of children, like we think of babies because they're really cute, but like children continue to have needs up until the very day they die, so, but also like young children who are potty training, like imagine having to potty train your child and not having the resources to do that, and not having access to a washer and dryer near you, that you have to take everything to the laundromat. And so having these basic needs, that it's not just about like supporting people, it's about like basic human dignity. And I think what we do is really radical because the government doesn't recognize these things as essential. And so my like end goal in the long run would be that the government includes diapers and other basic needs in WIC, the Women and Infant and Children Food Program, and in SNAP, the more general food program. Because when we think about basic needs, our basic needs are not just what like a normal person's basic needs are, right? Our basic needs differ, and people deserve dignity, and I think those are important things. So.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything you shared with us. So thank you very much.
Thanks. I'm sorry that if you made Coquito made any noises, my litter box is right here. Or not mine, but Coquito. So she chose to go right in the middle of us recording. So I was like, oh no.
That's okay. Look, we're all just trying to do our best. It's a little messy. We all have some weird stuff. A couple weeks ago, you could hear in one of the episodes, you could hear the water fountain that I have for my cat running.
Yeah.
And
That's a very tranquil sound though. Coquito like making a mess in the litter box is like a very like scary sound. So
Okay, you know, if things don't look perfect, that's okay. You know, we're all just
exactly.
making it through. Okay, well, thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.